Yes, it is.
You're still on mute.
Am I on mute now?
No.
I'm not on mute now. Hello, world. Contrary to popular belief, I am not Peter Pan. And Becca makes horrible sandwiches.
Oh.
Except for grilled cheese.
The sour cream tasted wonderful. It's like sour cream. Huh? PS3. Sorry. I know, it was just for the effect. So it doesn't matter how much I ever prepare for these things. It always seems that I'm never prepared enough. And that's when God supposedly is going to intervene. And I've prayed for that. See if you get that. Or if you get a flop of a message. So tonight we're talking on identity. What is identity? Do you have an identity? Are we identity together? What's identity? Growing up, I had so many identity issues. I still have identity issues. Like, have you ever been with your friends and... So last night I was with Michael and Kyle and Drew and David Moyes. And we were at their new apartment. And there was a sleeping baby upstairs. That's what we found out later, I guess. Well, I guess we found out kind of like right when we got there. If you just turn into if you're a guy, do you ever just turn into a complete idiot when you're around your guy friends? Like, I don't normally act like this, but right now, for some reason, kicking my friends in the junk is hysterical. And it is in those situations. Thus is my identity crisis. But growing up, I had so many identities. I would go to school, and I would be the kid at school. I would be in class, and I'm usually like here at the youth group, I'm energized, I'm up in people's faces, I'm enjoying talking to people. But at school, I was really the quiet kid. I was the kid that would sit in the back of the class. I hated everyone there. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to do any of the schoolwork. I didn't want to be around any of the teachers. I showed up to class. I got an average grade, if that, and I went home. That was my identity at school. Come to youth group, I'm outgoing, I'm wanting to be a part of things, I'm wanting to take lead of things. And that was my identity there. And I remember even being like 4 years old, and my mom was on the phone with my aunt. And my aunt, I'm 4 years old, 4-year-old, hey buddy, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I just listed out, and I was serious. I was like, listen up, man, astronaut, fireman, police. My dad was a cop, be a policeman, would be all these things. I was just listing stuff off, and I'm sure to my mom and my aunt, it was cute, 4-year-old little kid doing that. But as I'm looking back on it now, I'm realizing that was my crisis for a long time. I got up to my senior year of high school, and for those of you guys who are seniors, or have been seniors more than once, you know that, Duncan, is that representing? Is that what you... You know that it gets to your senior year of high school, and you're like, what the heck am I going to do in this place? And they're pushing for it, and they're trying to get you to come up with a game plan. What's your post-high school plan? You know what mine was? Astronaut. No, not astronaut. I was going to do schooling and all this stuff and become something. I did search and rescue. I was involved with the church. I was a lifeguard. So I had all these things I could do. I loved working on the farm, which was what I was doing all through high school. So I had my hippie cowboy identity. Then I came here and I had my musician identity. And I got to my senior year of high school. I'm like, what the heck am I going to do with all this? This big plate of identity that I don't know, man. It's like, I don't know where to start. You ever had a steak and it's really good and you're just like, what? You just pick it up and just start eating it and it turns into a big mess. Jessica didn't like that one. It's a bad date. So, over the past about year or two, I've really found my identity. We're going to be talking about what your identity is tonight. When I'm here, and when I am at work, I love showing God to people. I love hanging out with people, building people up. I love evangelism. And I've kind of created that as to be my identity in God, is that I am now showing Him through me to others. And when I'm here, Duncan's kind of pointed out, you guys know what extrovert versus introvert is? Extroverts very like, they get their energy from being with a lot of people, and everybody's here, and yes, lots of energy, this is what I get. But I am an extrovert in that sense, but then when I get home, I really do have an introvert side that I get done with here, and I just shut down. I get home. Yesterday was awesome. Yesterday I was preparing for the sermon. I did it in the morning, and it got to be about 1 o'clock, and there was kind of a windstorm yesterday, a bit of a windstorm, and I live in this little cabin on the beach, in the woods, really pretty setting, and I sat there at my kitchen table. I moved my iPad out of the way, got a cup of coffee, and I was just sitting there, and I sat there and watched the trees move for about an hour. And then I went over to the couch, and I laid down, and I sat there and I was watching the trees through the window still move, and then all of a sudden it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I feel great with my phone, and nobody else feels great that I've been sleeping for that long, all these appointments that I missed. But I absolutely love that time just alone, and just being able to kind of spend time with God yesterday for me was so much fun. Now, our verse that we're working with tonight is 1 John 3:1, and it says this: "See what kind of love the Father has given to us, that we should be called children of God, and so we are. The reason why this world does not know us is that it did not know Him." Now, to become someone's child, what do you have to do? Don't answer that. You all did it. I'm sure you did. But to be someone's child, you have to be in their family. Now, when God is saying here, John is saying here, see what kind of love the Father has given us, that we should be called children of God, and so we are. He loved us so much that He gave us the opportunity to be children of God. He invited us into His family. So to become a child of God, you have to belong to God. You have to be a Christian. Now, Christianity has all these happy terms that I hate and despise. Spirit 105.3 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Ugh! Man, or like 7 o'clock at night when they have all these sappy love stories and all these sappy, I've been through all this stories. I just flip the channel because it's like, where's the, real life here? So Christianity is all these like sappy stuff. And have you ever heard this? As a Christian, your identity as a Christian should be in Jesus Christ. Your identity should be in Christ. So what does that mean? We work so hard, as you saw in that video. As a culture, we work so hard to create an identity for ourselves. You saw in that video the women that were being shown up there in the pictures. Look this way, you can be sleek, you can be slender. We're so saturated with that. Is that a word, saturated? Yes, I think it is. In America, I was watching TV. I don't ever watch TV. I was watching TV the other day, and I had seen that video like a couple days prior because I was getting ready for the sermon. I was watching TV, and sure enough, like every other commercial was, you don't look good enough. Here, try our product. Viagra. Hair does great things for hair. That's the only reason I would buy it. So, to answer the question, what does it mean to have an identity in Christ? First, you have to understand what the world thinks of your identity. What the world thinks, how the world thinks, how you get your identity, and how the world thinks that way. So the world says, now it's different from up here, because I'm sorry if this is a little strung out and difficult to understand. Your actions in life influence you as a person, thus creating an identity for you. So if you're a guy, guys are very like, what I do is who I am. I work in an emergency room. I'm an ER tech. And if you go up to somebody, shake their hand, hi, how are you? What's your name? What's the first thing a lot of guys say to each other? Well, where do you work? What do you do? Duncan, he's a youth pastor. If somebody would come up to Duncan is immediate. I'm a youth pastor. Somebody comes up to me, I'm an emergency room technician for another week. Awesome. Getting married. It's going to be fun. So a lot of guys are very like, you know, I work this job, so that's who I am. Girls are more relational. I am so-and-so's wife. I am so-and-so's best friend. And that's where you create your identity. Now, that's what the world thinks of how you create your identity. And we're listening very intently, aren't we? And your cell phones are put away, aren't they? That's what I thought. God says you create an identity by confiding in me, loving me, and living in relationship with me. This builds your identity. Thus, that identity with me, that relationship with me, will influence your actions on the world. So you see the two different things. The world says your actions create who you are. God says no. I create who you are, and that should influence your actions. If you belong to God, if you are in His family, if you are a child of God, truly a child of God, not some happy-pappy kid that comes to Sunday school on Sunday morning and youth group on Sunday night, if you are truly a child of God and living that faith and living in that relationship, your life is going to be influenced. Your actions in life are going to be influenced. The way you live is going to be influenced. There are certain times in my life where people will look at me and I know exactly what they're thinking. If I'm acting that way in that crowd, I know exactly what they're thinking. Well, that's the church kid, isn't it? What a hypocrite. Guys, if your identity is in Christ, you are to have that identity everywhere you go. You are to show Christ to everybody. Your everything is Him, so that you won't be pinned as a hypocrite. And I know a lot of you, that's exactly what you're doing right now. Going to high school, going home to your families, you're a bunch of hypocrites. And some of you might not even be really part of God's family. You just think you are because you go to church. Now, some people get so far down the road of trying to create this identity for themselves, just please, someone love me, I need to look this way so that someone will love me. I need to look this way because my boyfriend thinks it looks great. By the way, if you guys are dating in this age, and I'm just going to say this because I'm talking about it, high school, there's no point. Get your arms off of each other. Get your hands away from each other. There's no point at all. I'm getting married in 2 weeks. I didn't even have a dating relationship with Jessica at all. It was funny because Duncan's preached this to us our whole life and I never believed him. But I was running like full bore ahead. God, what do you want me to do with my life? God, what identity do you want me to have in you? What do you want me to be doing, God, for you? And Duncan points this out to us a long time ago. Now, when you're doing that, look to your right and see who's running along right side you. Huh, Jessica, what's up? We're getting married in 2 weeks. Dating is retarded. Don't do it. Just a bunch of crap. Leave me with that. So some people go so far down this road of someone love me. Oh gosh, no one loves me. I'm not popular. I don't have the iPad 3. I have the iPad 2. Some people go so far down this road that they eventually get angry at themselves. They eventually then get depressed. And that eventually leads to suicidal intentions. Now, working in the emergency room, we get calls all the time with SI patients, is what we call them in the hospital. Suicidal intentions. And they'll come in via ambulance, try to commit suicide, or they'll call 911 saying, look, I have no one else to turn to. I really just want to kill myself right now. And they'll call 911. They don't know what else to do. So we get these patients in here, and it breaks my heart every time I have to deal with a 13-year-old girl who just tried to take her own life because her mom abandoned her, her dad abandoned her. She has no friends. And most of the suicidal intentions that come into the emergency room, there's two things going on with them. It's either A, something's going on relationally, they're not getting love, and they want to kill themselves. Or B, they're not making it in life, usually financially, or they're in a lot of trouble financially, so they think the best way out is just to kill themselves. We had a guy 3 weeks ago who was tackled off of the edge of a bridge. He was going to jump, literally, and they just barely got to him. They brought him in, and he was fighting the EMTs, he was fighting the paramedics, he was fighting the cops, so he came in 4-point restraints. He had a big mask on because he was spitting at them. He wanted to die. He didn't care how he was going to die. He wanted to die. That is terrifying, that a person can get to that point. They're trying to find their identity in something that is not going to last. I recently came across this video on YouTube. This girl named Cassie, she's from, I believe, Alabama. She would have been exactly the kind of girl that I would be dealing with on any day I work in the emergency room. And she is an SI patient that has kind of turned around. I want to show you guys her video.